Microphone's on.
Good. Recording started.
Are you in the mood for fun today, Sam?
No. No, I'm not. I'm in the mood to lock myself inside.
Nothing preps you for a funny podcast quite like coronavirus.
No. And although this week we have a wonderfully ironic topic, which is movement, which, considering most of our listeners' countries are in lockdown, it's something of a podcast of wishful thinking today.
A lot of podcasts, aren't there, at the moment about coronavirus?
Yes, there are.
God, I bet there's a lot of people with know fuck all about it who are airing their views.
Well, this is a podcast where two people who know fuck all about history air theirs. So
air their views, yes.
People in glass houses should not leave them. Hello and welcome to That Was Genius, the little history podcast in which two men locked in their rooms, that's made a change, discuss history stories on a topic each week. The topic is decided the week in advance, but everything else that happens is a surprise. And the theme this week is movement.
Yeah, so this week it's all about movement. How have you found your research this? In fact, how's your week been generally with all your self-isolation?
Oh, I have self-isolated myself so hard. I've been self-isolating 3, sometimes 4 times a day. Yeah.
How do you keep your spunk when you're self-isolating that much?
Well,
your verve, your je ne sais quoi.
Well, the trick is to mix it up a little bit. You self-isolate in different rooms. You sometimes
different positions.
Yeah, sometimes you try and self-isolate just for a little bit of time. You know, maybe whilst the kettle's boiling, and sometimes you make a bit of a marathon. You try and do, you self-isolate all the way
slow
through.
And steady.
Yeah, all the way through Godfathers 1 and 2. So right. So you will self-isolate through a film like that. What about another long film like? Schindler's Sound
List.
of Music.
Can you self-isolate to Schindler's List?
I'll give anything a go, Tom. I'll give anything a go.
Boy in striped pajamas.
Yes, I mean, I might have to
self-isolate yourself to that, isn't it?
It is hard to. Well, as I say, I like a challenge, and I might have to leave the room and self-isolate somewhere else for a few minutes. But we'll find a way. How about you, Tom? How's your self-isolation going?
Oh yeah, it's good. Oh, I haven't been completely self-isolating when I am going out for walks, etc. And I actually had an encounter with a famous person this week, Sam.
Did you?
Yeah, I
was it
walking
God?
through our village.
Did you have a word?
What are you doing up there? Why have you given us 80 years of really niceness and then thrown in the coronavirus? No, I was walking through our village with my family, and coming towards us was, now prepare yourself for this, Sam,
Go on.
Ringo Starr.
Oh, fuck off. Really?
Ringo Starr, yeah. And I noticed my wife, and I said, that's bloody Ringo Starr. And he obviously heard me, because when he got closer, he said, are you that Tom chap from That Was Genius? I love your podcast. It's so informative and amusing.
Did he?
In fact, one of your episodes inspired me to write a song. Those were his very words.
Were they?
So.
Were they in that accent?
Yeah. Yeah, he was putting on a weird voice. I don't know.
Hello, my name is Ringo Starr.
Anyway, he passed me a cassette, Sam, one of those like old 90s ones.
Good.
With a recording of his new song that he's written for us. Would you like to hear it, Sam?
Tom, there's nothing in this world that I would like more.
And would you feel free to join in as well if you sort of know the tune.
Is this how bored you've been this week?
This is what I do on long journeys to get a fridge from my parents.
Wow, that is quite the odyssey. Homer, eat your heart out.
Let me press play. Click.
Okay.
I'd like to be in an orchard tree, in a little hideaway amongst the leaves.
Boom, boom, boom.
I'd be there,
boom, boom,
eating a stolen pear,
boom, boom,
looking for something to pinch for tea.
Boom, 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 boom.
Then someone shouts very aggressively, who the fuck is that sitting up there?
I've just remembered where this is going. Right.
I'd like to be up in a tree in Prior Puss's garden in the shade. With an angry throb, he points his oversized knob towards my little hideaway amongst the leaves. Join in, Sam. A randy gnome with a very threatening tone in Prior Puss's garden, being abused. You think I've only done a few verses, Sam?
Good.
There's more. He'll swear and stomp around because he wants our asses to pound. All together now. I'd like to be up in a tree
in Prior Puss's garden, being abused.
I'd like to be.
Christ. It was a long journey.
So happy in a tree, laughing at this Randy Monty Don. Oh god, no, it drizzled. It dribbles out.
It fizzled out, didn't it?
Fizzles out.
Fizzles out. Do you know what album that's from, Tom? Sergeant Pepper's Ruined Arse Club Band is the.
I thought that was a genuine quiz question, but you.
No, it's not. It's on Abbey Road.
It's up Back Alley Road. Yep. For people listening to this, by the way, by the time it makes a cut, I did the full song for Sam. Sam's cut it down to the first verse. if that.
Yes,
if that. I did the full album.
Yeah,
I did Abbey Road. So that's what I wrote on a long journey to my parents' house to pick up. It wasn't actually a fridge; it was a washing machine because I didn't want to go to any laundrettes where I might be exposed to common people who have horrible viruses.
Do you know what, Tom? The only thing that could have made that 6-minute interlude more interesting was replacing the white goods appliance at the end. Wow, that's quite something. It's really you've painted a picture, and
did I? Thank you very much.
It's a big picture, huge, great big picture with not much on it. And it's Movement Week, fittingly considering you've been on a long journey, getting it vaguely on topic for the week. Yes.
And how was so you struggled to find anything amusing for this topic?
I did struggle to find anything particularly funny. Yes, I've got nothing rude. I found a really good story.
But, I like the way I struggled. The way you associate funny with rude.
There were a lot of Google searches for rudest exodus.
I didn't find anything funny. There was nothing rude because only rude things are funny.
Yes, literally only rude things. I did briefly consider replacing movement with motion as a theme and then doing bowel habits, but no,
right.
No, nothing came of it. So.
You're so childish.
Actually, I didn't do any of that. Just pulling your leg. I'm pulling your leg.
I briefly looked. I was hoping to go down the route of looking at the etymology of phrases related to dance. And that's not history, I hear you scream, that's linguistics. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter because there weren't many good examples. The only half-decent one was all singing and all dancing, which comes from the 1929 film Broadway Melody, which was the top-grossing film of 1929 and winner of an Oscar for Best Picture that year, although apparently it's quite shit.
Well, it was 1929, wasn't it?
Yeah, films were shit back then. And on the poster of the movie, there was the phrase "all talking, all singing, all dancing" because it was supposedly it was the first full-on musical.
300% film.
It's got something like 36% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's not not the greatest. Hasn't stood the test of time very well.
Fair enough. I looked into dance a little bit as well, and then decided not to, which is lucky.
Because I have.
You have, yes.
Yes, I have. Right, what are we going to toss that's movementy?
That's a good... what should we toss or wiggle?
I'm looking around. Our house is very empty at the moment. We're back in the UK. We're in Cambridgeshire, and our belongings haven't arrived, so we haven't really got much around.
No, they're...
I've got a pair of socks. I've been out in the garden with the boys doing a bit of gardening today this morning.
What a treat.
And I've got one of my garden socks here.
Oh, a delicious
sitting on the
sock
radiator.
Full of snails.
Yes, a sock full of snails.
Beautiful.
Which was almost the name of Abbey Road, but they decided to go for Abbey Road instead of a sock full of snails.
The unreleased album.
Yes. So, would you like which side would you like if I flip my sock?
I'd like the particularly muddy, sweaty bottom side of Tom's sock full of snails.
Sock full of snails. Okay.
Tom's sock full of snails sounds very much like a local radio feature.
Wales,
like a local gardener's question time type thing.
Oh right.
And Mr. Forbes has been writing in, and he asks, "Why can't I make parsnips that look like thingamajigs?" And I say to him, well, it's just luck if it looks like a thingamajig, and it's very lucky if it looks like mine. Har, 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 har. Cider, cider, cider. Next week, we'll be discussing dandelions, and can you shove them up your urethra?
I'm not sure I like dandelions. I like my lions completely masculine.
Now it's traffic and travel.
Let's throw the sock. There it is, and that landed on one side of the sock. Excellent. Which has not got us any further than we were.
You go first.
2 minutes first. Okay, I'll go first. Yes, so I am talking about dance, as Sam's highlighted.
You're quite the mover, aren't you, Tom?
I am a mover and a shaker, as anyone who's seen me on a dance floor knows.
There's a great picture of us on social media, jiving whilst dressed in 1970s clothes.
Yes, that we stole.
We stole from a friend who thought he was cool.
We had a friend, right, pal, who sort of spoke like this, pal, all right. And he used to listen to Led Zeppelin, and he used to say, Led Zeppelin are brilliant, pal, they're brilliant, Led Zeppelin. And so when he would go out of his student accommodation, leave his door unlocked, we would break in. Well, not really break in, he had it unlocked, but we would go into his room and we would steal all his old op shop clothes that were rather ill-fitting and sweaty because he never washed them.
They were certainly more ill-fitting and sweaty after we wore them.
Yes, we went for a night out to an indie bar.
An indie bar, we did.
Bar in Birmingham.
Went to an indie bar, and we danced to Oasis. And
yeah, we didn't. You don't dance. You appreciate indie music, don't you, Sam? You sort of just nod.
Well, yes, you do.
Yes. So no, yeah. I've got, and the other thing that's really interesting, Sam, is I've never been taught how to dance. It's totally natural.
You can't tell.
Just rhythm just flows through me.
Something flows through you.
Anyway, so I'm talking about a dance this week, a naughty and frivolous dance, a rude dance with things like body contact.
Oh, hello. Is it capoeira?
That's that stupid Brazilian martial art, isn't
it?
Yes. Yeah. No, this is a disgusting dance with body contact. I couldn't believe my eyes, Sam.
Could you not?
Looking though, I even made some drawings, and to continue my research into this disgusting pastime, I asked to take part. Disgusting.
Did you?
Men pressing themselves up against me. I felt revolting.
Oh, I bet you had to self-isolate for hours on end afterwards.
Oh, I did. I self-isolated myself, silly. Anyway, I'm talking about the Waltz, that famously understated, unerogenous ballroom dance performed on Strictly Come Dancing / Dancing with the Stars. And yes, it was very controversial when it first came on the scene, and people might know a little bit about this. So, have you heard of the Waltz and how controversial it was?
A little bit, yes.
Yeah,
I mean, it certainly raises eyebrows when I do it. It can still be controversial, Tom. It's all about the way you perform it.
Yeah, it is, yes, without trousers on. And a bear. Have you just imagine you with no trousers on and a big fuzzy bear head in the Waltz?
It's really the dinosaur T-Rex head that does it, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Have you ever come across fuzzies before?
Fuzzies? Do you mean furries?
Have they got two names? Furries, fuzzies? Maybe they are furries.
I really hope we're talking about the same thing. Otherwise, I've just pulled something I shouldn't out of the hat.
You've just got pulled a full furry out your ass. So I remember I went bowling a couple of years ago, and some very nerdy-looking people turned up in one of the lanes beside us. And as the night wore on, more and more furry appendages came out of their bags. Tails,
yes, this is done. Yes,
heads,
this is. Yes.
Hands. Very weird. I mean, they were very pleasant, doing no harm to anyone, but it was really quite odd to observe.
Shiny coats.
Yes.
Their owners picked up after them.
Yeah.
Hung it off a tree.
Yeah. Didn't make much of a mess when they were eating out of their bowls. Yeah. Where was I? Back to the Waltz. Anyway, it's a bit difficult to accurately describe the origin of the Waltz, basically because it's dancing with someone close to you. And I'm sure people have been doing this since the dawn of time, back as far as the Discolithic, through the Boogiolithic, and also during the pelvic thrusterlithic.
Yes,
which preceded
absolutely.
the Bronze Age. The consensus seems to be that the dance evolved from the volta that was popular amongst the wealthy as far back as the 16th century.
That was a shocking dance.
Ah, got you. Well done. In addition... danger, danger, high volta.
Yes. When we touch, when we kiss.
In addition, I didn't even think of that joke. I should have, shouldn't I? There was the landler. Probably that also probably influenced the waltz, and this was a very alpine dance, Sam. So it was enjoyed by lederhosen-wearing, thigh-slapping, yodeling, beer-swigging, working Germans, good salt-of-the-earth Germans.
The kind of people who like to pop out of a cuckoo clock, make a little noise, and pop back in.
Both of these dances were a tad controversial at the time for the same reasons that the waltz became controversial, and I'll get onto that shortly. Louis XIII actually banned the volta in France, and the bishops of Würzburg and Fulda issued decrees prohibiting gliding or waltzing as a result of the popularity of the landra, Sam.
Oof.
Eh? The church, misers since the 3rd century. Eh? Hello. What's going on here then? Did I observe, sir, gliding down the pavement? Was that a surreptitious fleckle I spotted as you alighted beside
feeling
me?
very light-footed today, aren't we, sir?
Yeah. I politely remind you, good sir, that such namby-pamby waltzy cavorting is banned in here bishopric.
Consider yourself rather light-footed, like the Lord himself, trying to get across the sea, do you, sir? I see. Putting yourself up there with Jesus, are you?
Well, you know what happened to him, don't you? You know what happened to him. But I'm singing in the rain. Stop it. You'll be singing in the present self if you don't watch yourself. By the middle of the 18th century, peasants in modern-day Austria and southern Germany were dancing the waltz. Incidentally, Sam, and I think you'll like this very much, a faster version of the waltz was known in the Austrian-German, the German language, as either a Geschwindwalzer or a Gallopwalzer.
Oh, what?
Which I quite like.
A Gallopwalzer?
A Geschwindwalzer or a Gallopwalzer. Gallopwalzer.
Which I suppose is very fast?
Exactly, yeah, because it's very fast, so it is a Geschwindwalzer or a Gallopwalzer. And do you know what the Viennese waltz is called, Sam? And I think you'll like this even more.
Is it the Viennese waltz? I'm pretty sure that is its name.
The Wiener Waltz.
The Wiener Waltz.
The Wiener Waltzer. My Wiener is doing a waltzer.
Oh, that's why it got banned.
Exactly.
Is that your wiener gliding?
Is your wiener doing a little bit of a fleckle on the pavement, sir?
I do declare your wiener appears to be foxtrotting.
Can you regain control over your wiener, please, sir, before I arrest said wiener?
Your wiener appears to be dancing a maypole now. I would...
Is your wiener mocking me with its helmet, sir? Is it mocking the police officer it sees before it?
I say, sir, is your wiener performing a Morris dance? Only it's covered in bells.
Oh dear. So I'm not going to go into great detail about the subtleties of the dance, the waltz, but I will say this, Sam. It was controversial because of the close body contact. It was fast also, and the fact that two individuals focused on each other, i.e. they were facing in the whole time.
Not Jesus.
And no.
Room in there for a little one? No, sorry, God.
Tucking himself in between you while you're trying to watch Netflix.
Mind if I step in?
You're a bit big for this, though, for God, aren't you? Have you not got anything else you could be doing right now?
God's like a golden retriever. He kind of like one paw up, two paw up, slide in.
As his phone makes a noise and he silences it. Shouldn't you answer that, God? No.
No.
Shouldn't you answer? Are you sure you shouldn't answer that, God? Nope. It says something about a virus, God. Are you sure you should be doing something?
All part of my plan.
Yeah, I like to work in mysterious ways.
And by mysterious, I mean shitty.
Well, yes, sorry, before you interrupted, I would say, so rather, traditional dances at the time had you interacting with the audience as much as your fellow dancers, and you wouldn't be in close contact with them. The dances would follow a set pattern. Do you know when you watch a period
You wouldn't go
drama,
and grind yourself up against individual members of the audience. No, that would be uncouth.
Do Gyrate. How'd you like that? Do you think Waltz is raunchy? Watch me twerk.
This is making it really difficult to play my violin.
You know, you watch a period drama and they have these really boring looking stuffy dances where people step to the right, step to the left, step in.
Yes.
Boring as fucking. Well, everyone, yeah. So that was more traditional. And the audience was involved as much as the dancers, whereas the Volta, you were always focused very much on the person you were dancing with. In addition, the Volta, in particular, had a move that involved the man touching the lady's thigh, broad above. I know.
My God, I think I just self-isolated.
All over. And I think, from having watched Strictly Come Dancing / Dancing with the Stars, that a Volta is actually still a name of a throw, like a jump.
Yes, like a pole,
lift,
like a pole vaulter.
Like a pole vaulter, yeah. I won't correct the same joke again. It became popular with the young noblemen and women who were a bit tired of the stuffy old dances that their parents used to get their juices flowing. So by the end of the 18th... who used to self-isolate. So by the end of the 18th century, partly thanks to the Napoleonic Wars, it was very popular in courts throughout Europe. And now here's a chap called von Goethe. Quote.
Von Goethe?
Von Goethe.
Von Goethe. He's very good at the Wiener.
The Wiener, Von Goethe had a very good Wiener. When the waltz commenced and the dancers whirled around each other in the giddy maze, never did I dance more lightly. I felt myself more than mortal, holding this loveliest of creatures in my arms, flying with her as rapidly as the wind, till I lost sight of every other object. Presumably because Hefty Helga, his dance partner, had just thrown her out the window like a discus. But that was von Goethe describing the wonders of the waltz. However, not everyone was so delighted with the dance, Sam.
Oh.
A chap called Wolfe published a pamphlet in 1797 called, translation obviously, Proof that Waltzing is a main source of the weakness of the body and mind of our generation.
Ooh, strong worded.
Strong title.
Yeah.
Waltzing is the cause of all sins, according to old Wolfe.
Wow, that sounds like the kind of title that's going to be backed up by hard scientific evidence, Tom.
You know what I would do if I was around such a miser as Wolfe?
I'd throw him over my shoulder and dance with him.
Exactly. I would jump on the table, thrust in his face and go, you're hungry like the wolf. Give it a bit of Duran Duran. Lord Byron wrote a very critical poem about the dance too. And I would quote it at length, but I'm not a big fan of poetry. I find it all a bit difficult to understand. Try this, for example. Quote, a huge hussar-looking gentleman turning round and round to a confounded seesaw, up-down sort of turn, like two cockchafers spitted on the same bodkin.
I beg one's pardon?
Yeah, exactly.
Two cockchafers like spitted on a bodmin.
Yeah, two cockchafers spitted on the same bodkin. No, not two cock flavours found on bodmin. And yes, it was really rather. I did go to the effort to finding this Lord Byron poem, and I read it.
I bet you did.
I didn't understand anything about it.
Wow.
Didn't get it. Didn't understand a word. In 1833, a manual for good manners published in Britain recommended it be performed only by married women. Sam?
But not married men.
In the comfort of their own home.
Interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah.
I see a flaw in this plan.
Yeah. I did a quick search on Project Gutenberg's website as well, which is incidentally a great resource for
very good resource
sources. Very good. And found a document called The Dance of Death from 1877, in which the author, it turns out, sarcastically criticises the vulgarity of the dance, obviously because it was considered very vulgar in London at the time, so there was the irony there. And that's a full 60 to 70 years after it was first introduced to Britain. So that's the controversial waltz, Sam. Now, I did also come across, as a side note, some other interesting things in my research, which was some of the wonderful dance venues of Vienna at this time. The Apollo Dance Hall in Vienna had an artificial waterfall and a lake with swans and trees all inside. Very.
Like a Vegas casino.
Bright light city gonna set my soul. Yes, and the Tivoli Pleasure Gardens apparently had a dance hall looking out over Vienna, and as part of the fun, now I couldn't find out as much about this as I wanted to, and I assure you, I tried quite hard. There was apparently a toboggan for patrons.
Ooh.
You could turn that up, have a boogie, and then go down the slide. A little bit like Paulton's Park, you know? Put your feet in an old sack of potatoes and slide down.
Amazing. I do a bit of work for a music company. I do some music production on the side when I'm not doing this fine podcast. And we do some recordings in an office sometimes, and the office has a helter-skelter going down from the boardroom into the main office.
Get out of here. Get right out.
It's possibly one of the most hipster things I've ever
I was
seen.
about to say they think they're really quirky.
Yes.
Do they all have beards and a hair swept across to the side?
I mean, I have a beard and hair swept across to the side, so I feel like I shouldn't throw stones.
Are you wearing a check shirt as well?
Yeah, no, I'm not, but I am wearing a shirt for an indie band at the moment, so we're close enough. We're close enough.
What indie band's that, Sam?
It's a band called Public Service Broadcasting, Tom, who actually, if our audience might quite like them, they take old public service films from the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and they put music over them. They've got some really nice stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Wanker. There's nothing more pretentious than saying, "Oh, I've got a shirt with an indie band on," and then mentioning some really unknown indie band. Because it would be cool to say The Verve, would it?
The Verve?
That's not cool. It's not cool to say a well-known indie band, is it? You've got to say, "Oh, you wouldn't know them."
The Verve haven't been well known since about 2000.
Well, there was the case with the Rolling Stones song a few years ago, wasn't there? That was finally settled.
That's true. That's good music knowledge. Well done.
Now you patronise me. Thank you. Oh, dear. What was the other one that was settled recently? That was in the news a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
Oh,
What
yeah.
song
Was it
that?
Led Zeppelin or...
That's right, Stairway to Heaven. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of their old touring bands have claimed that they'd pinched it off them.
Yes, that's
Apparently.
right, and apparently they didn't.
And I have no understanding of. I can't play an instrument, so I have no idea whether or not it's similar.
I actually haven't heard
That's why
because
I
I
like
don't care.
Coldplay.
You like Coldplay?
I love Coldplay, Sam. I'm
Do
sorry.
you?
I love Coldplay, and I know people hate them. And I don't like Radiohead. I'm sorry. I like Coldplay, and I don't like Radiohead.
Truly, you are a man of contrasts.
Which is why I never, ever get invited out by musos.
Well, you're a massive twat.
I'm not going to deny it.
Little
I've
from
got a track record.
little from column A, little from column B.
Yeah, but I'm a rational individual, Sam. Look, if I behave the way I do with other people on social occasions, I'm going to get a reputation as a bit of a twat.
Yeah.
I used to get bored in Christchurch. Before we had kids, I used to get bored at social occasions and would just randomly start games of hide and seek. In people's houses.
I would do that as well, and I'd hide at home. Count to 100, get in the car, drive off.
Fuck off. We once accidentally zipped up a lady in a little suitcase and forgot about her after the game had finished and she couldn't get out.
Firstly, how small was this lady? Secondly, how big was the suitcase?
She was quite small, the suitcase was quite big. What are some of the other good ones? You've got to be careful when you're playing random games of hide and seek in someone's house, because what you don't want to do is, accidentally sit on a dildo, do you?
Well, that's true, but then if that's the case, then you shouldn't hide in the dildo drawer.
Checking my blue lines are still going.
Are we good?
Yeah, they're good.
Beautiful, because I would not have done that.
Wasn't worth the effort. Right, over to you.
Okay.
In a prior push. This guy, because you enjoyed it so much the first time round.
Oh no. Oh no. The Kappa is a pretty nice beast, but it doesn't have a lot to say. Boom, 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 boom. The Kappa is a pretty nice beast. I can't go anywhere more with that.
And it likes your prostate. You made this mistake before. If you're going to ad-lib a song, choose a slow song.
I have made this mistake before, yeah.
Do you like one of my favourites is Foo Fighters. I've got another confession to make. Whenever I hear that, I follow it up with something different, like I shat in your pillowcase. I've got another confession to make.
I've been eating. Yeah, I was going to say I've been eating your Rolos.
Are we going to go down the road over it as well? I'll do another one for you. I've got another confession to make.
I've been slowly eating all of your baby bells and then just shoving the red baby bell wrappers back inside the last baby bell so there's nothing in there but a big blob of clay and wax.
Perfect. So, look. What was that? What were those little characters from the art show, from Art Attack?
Morph
and Mindy. That's one.
No, it wasn't.
No, that was something very different. Yeah, Morph. Yeah, so it's like a little cheesy morph.
Yeah, I used to do that. I used to make little characters out of baby bell wrappers and try and do little stop motion animations with them. Oh yeah, when I was like a tiny little kid.
Yeah. When you didn't have any friends.
Yeah. When I was in my first phase of self-isolation. Which lasted for, the 90s. Anyway, well, Tom, I've gone down a route of moving things today rather than moving people. In fact, I've gone specifically for moving mail. And the story of one particularly badass woman. A woman called Mary Stagecoach Fields.
That wasn't her middle name, was
well,
it?
I was going to say that's obviously a nickname and not just a great case of nominative determinism.
Yeah, like Sam Podcast Wanker.
Yeah, or Tom Stay-at-Home Dad.
Tom, I wouldn't have a surname. I don't do anything.
No. Merely Tom.
I have no self-worth. Tom.
The personal trainer formerly known as Tom. So yes, Mary Stagecoach Fields, who is, I think she's relatively well known in the US, but she's pretty cool, so I thought I'd talk about her anyway. Now, Mary was a badass for all kinds of reasons, but mostly because she was the bodybuilding, gun-toting, bar-fighting, hard-drinking, effing and blinding first ever black woman to drive a US postal stagecoach.
I was about to say, I was... Moments before, I was about to say, is this to do with civil rights?
No.
Okay, fine. But she just happened to be black. Sorry, okay.
No, she just happened to be black and a badass. She was an absolute beast. She was the male woman you wouldn't want to mess with, and the male woman that everybody loved. Aww.
That's nice.
So, Mary was born a slave in Tennessee in 1832 and was freed in 1865 with the end of the Civil War. So, for the first 33 odd years of her life, she was a slave. She travelled around the country. Good start, yeah. So,
and you were complaining about your modelling.
The only way is up.
Yeah.
So she travelled on riverboats for a bit, working as a cook and laundrette. She worked for a judge for a while, and then when his wife died, she took the family's 5 children to live with their aunt, who was a nun, a mother superior called Mary Amadeus, which is a great nun's name.
It's a great nun's name.
It's a great nun's name, suitably threatening. Amadeus, Jesus Amadeus. Shortly afterwards, in 1884, Amadeus was sent to Montana to open up a school for Native American girls and quickly came down with pneumonia there.
Gutted. See, sometimes goes the other way, doesn't it?
Ouch.
How does that feel? Hey, that's what the Native Americans were thinking.
Ooh, a little touch of smallpox, have you? Fields rushed to her rescue, and once she'd recovered, she stayed on as the forewoman of the school and convent. She learnt how to repair buildings, so she did a lot of building work. She did the painting and decorating. She raised livestock for the school, and learnt to hitch wagons to haul loads to and from town. So she was pretty good with the manual labour.
She's basically the janitor from The Simpsons.
Yeah, pretty much. She was Willie.
Willie, yeah.
But a black female Willie. No.
That joke doesn't work to any of our American listeners.
Yes. So she got a reputation as being a fierce handler of horses and even fiercer in a fight. This was helped by her physical appearance. She was, frankly, a bit of a tank. She was built like an Eastern European shot putter, looking at photos of her. And around...
Oh, really? Let's have a look. But without all of the... hormonal assistance.
Yeah, so without massive amounts of growth hormone.
Stagecoach.
Mary Stagecoach Fields.
Fields.
She was about 5'10" as well, looking at the photos of her, which was as tall, or actually quite a bit taller than most of the men at the time. And the nuns of this quiet and peaceful convent were apparently absolutely terrified of her. They were
Especially when she seemed to be holding a gun the whole time.
No, well, yeah, she did.
pictures.
She was armed and dangerous. She was very Second Amendment. They were terrified of her. They were terrified of her ability to swear like a sailor at anyone who walked on her freshly cut lawn or freshly mopped floors. And
She sounds great.
she does. Well, after a long trip one day, apparently one of the nuns asked if they could get her anything, and she reportedly ordered a large whiskey and a cigar, which, for a woman in a convent, is pretty badass.
She just sounds like bloody Clint Eastwood, doesn't she?
She was a bit Clint Eastwood. Well, actually,
Black
she was
female Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, well, she became one of the great folk heroes of the Wild West or the Late West. But whilst the nuns had a grudging admiration for her, the kids at the school were completely baffled by this woman, and they gave her the slightly offensive nickname White Crow, based on the fact that she wasn't a white woman, but behaved very much like one. And one schoolgirl wrote in an essay that Fields, quote, drinks whiskey and swears, is a Republican, and that all makes her a low and foul creature. Which I quite liked. Drinks whiskey, swears, is a Republican, and therefore a low and foul creature. Great nun. Superb nun. One of the best. Amazingly, she lasted at the school for about 10 years until the bishop eventually had to fire her for getting into an armed argument with a janitor and drawing her gun on him. So,
Get off my land.
nuns with guns,
Right.
Tom. Nuns with guns.
Sounds like a good film.
It does sound like a great film, doesn't it?
With Whoopi Goldberg
Yep. I was just thinking,
and Clint Eastwood.
Sister Act 3.
Sister Act 2, Independence Day.
Sister Act the Second, Amendment. Gospel according to Smith and Wesson. Yeah. So anyway, she got fired by the bishop for drawing her gun on a janitor. And
Just on his forehead, just with a biro.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, just doodling absent-mindedly on the back of his head.
That on your forehead is my gun.
Ah, you have
Very good representation.
just
I
been
think we'll find.
pwned.
Get it? I drew my gun on you. Get it? Get it?
Or unless she drew her gun whilst riding around on his shoulders, in which case she drew her gun whilst on him.
Yes. His gun. Yes. Yes. I see what you.
Yes.
All the English language.
Oh, isn't
The
it
fun you
wonderful
can have.
and dull and edited out? She quickly opened up a restaurant which went bust a year later because she gave free meals to anyone who couldn't pay. She was very generous despite being a bit of a bruiser. And then, at the ripe old age of 63, and bearing in mind this is the 19th century, so they're pretty old by the standards of the time, she got a job as a star route carrier for the US Postal Service. Now, the star routes were routes which the Postal Service subcontracted out because they were either considered too expensive or too dangerous to run themselves. So they are
Too goddamn dangerous.
too goddamn dangerous.
We need someone to run this line, and we just don't know who it could be. Stagecoach Fields. She's in retirement, but we can ask her. She's the best goddamn railroad person in the world.
If you know which nunnery to find her in, if you've got a letter that needs delivering, then you could call the nun team. Da 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 da. Yes. So the star routes were the Z routes, which the Postal Service found was either too dangerous or too expensive to run themselves. So it was the ones that were full of bandits.
Goddamn
Too
expensive.
goddamn dangerous and too goddamn expensive.
Do the whole thing again.
No, we're not doing the whole thing again. So they were the ones where the roads were
You're not
bad,
editing this bit out.
the
I've
weather
finished-
was bad. I am editing this bit out, and
Sorry, carry on, Sam. That's
thank,
definitely getting edited.
thank you. If it was in any doubt before. So you know the stagecoaches in spaghetti westerns. Those were
Goddamn, do I know them? I
Oh,
love
shut up. Those were the star routes. Are you drunk?
No.
Have you been at home for a week on your own?
Yes.
So these are the routes that were dangerous, they were dirty, and they were badly paid. It was a terrible, terrible job. Applicants had to be able to repair a shattered wagon wheel in the middle of nowhere, they had to be able to fight off bandits, and they had to do it all on a schedule. as part of their contract, they had to leave
You are going to have bandits. That's 4:05. And if you don't fight them off in 3 minutes flat, we are not going to get our
You
post.
cannot make that joke and then not do a bandits on your 6 joke. Come on now.
What's a bandits on your 6?
From like dogfighting films in World War II.
Oh, no, I haven't heard that phrase.
Come in, Chipper, you've got bandits on your 6. Jerry coming down from on high. Nein, Gott in Himmel. Meine Messerschmitt is on fire. You know.
Schneider, schnell.
That's right, boys. Let's get back to base. Let's get back to base to go and pat our racially insensitively named dog. So yes, they had to operate on a schedule, which meant that they had to leave a bond with the post office, and every time they were late, cash got docked off this bond.
Not again. I've got no money left.
I'm actually operating in reverse. I'm so late, the post office is now paying me. As anyone who knows the US Postal Service will know, is pretty much how it works.
Why is it always me that has to be left back at the base to pay the money, Mrs. Moneypenny? That's the bond that I've got left at them. Back at the station.
Good.
Bond. That was Sean Connery.
Was that Sean Connery?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, moving very swiftly on with the story. There was a lot of potential there. We'll come back to that one.
Do it again, or redo that, but better.
Do you want to do that again? Do you want to do it again now?
All right, you say it, and I'll do it again.
Okay, so they had to leave a bond with the postal service, which would get cash docked off it for poor service.
Why is it always me that has to be left behind?
Not again, Miss Moneypenny. That's my. Why is he coming out like fucking Yogi Bear? Oh, this is way better. We're keeping this one. Oh, boo boo. Miss Moneypenny, she just took $2 from my picnic basket. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to eat this jelly sandwich.
Oh, dear. Go on, do Sean Connery again. That was good. Go on, try it. Say that would be splendid, Mrs. Moneypenny. Come on.
That would be splendid, Miss Moneypenny. It's not much. That'll be splendid, Miss Moneypenny.
That's better. That'll be splendid, Miss Moneypenny.
There we go. I knew there was some comedy gold in there somewhere. Not where I was expecting it from, but we found it. And thus we can move on. Fortunately for Mary, she could hitch up 6 horses faster than anyone else who applied for the job, and also could ride like the absolute blazes. So in 1895, she won the Cascade County contract for Central Montana. Boom, yeah, goddamn. Carrying the mail in an old coach which was donated by her old friend, Mother Mary Amadeus. So presumably had a great big statue of Jesus on the back from some kind of parade. Yeah, Jesus took the reins.
Had the power of God behind it.
Absolutely.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. And she was an absolute badass, Tom. She rode over muddy roads. She rode through terrible snowdrifts in all weathers. When things got too bad, she would either hitch up her faithful old mule, Moses, and walk with him over the mountains, or she would even...
over his shoulders?
Yes, well, she would literally sling all of the mail from the coach over her back and snowshoe it across the mountains if she needed to. Bear in mind, this wasn't just letters, this was goods, this was crates, parcels, cash, occasional rich passengers and dainty ladies screaming, "Oh my!" as the as the bandits try and carry her off. All of that in one bag over her shoulders over the mountains.
I'm so helpless. I can't do anything apart from be helpless.
I do declare, why am I being carried by an enormous woman over this mountain? So yeah, she was, and bear in mind she was.
God damn, we've got a dainty woman, and she's stuck in a snowdrift.
What are we going to do?
Damn, there's only one person who can get her out of that.
There's only one person strong enough and with a foul enough voice.
But she's retired. Well, you go get her and you tell her she's the only person we know who can do this.
Well, quite. It's going to be like Rambo.
No, I was thinking cliffhanger.
Ah, good. Also, good choice.
Great film.
So yeah, she would carry it by hand. She would hike over that mountain in snowdrift. In fact, in her 8 years on the trail, she was never late once, not one day. Bear in mind that by the time she quit, she was in her 70s. She always carried 2 guns, a rifle for seeing off threats at a distance, and a pistol for getting up close and personal. And which, again, there
Don't like it up 'em.
they don't like it up in Captain Mannering. And there are lots of fairly apocryphal stories of her using her guns, seeing off bandits, shooting people. Apparently once she even saw off a pack of wolves with her revolver when they got too close. She got up close and personal with an entire pack of wolves.
Damn, you little bastard.
I'm going to make you squeal like a doggy. So these stories probably aren't true, but the Wild West loves a tale. And she certainly did carry 2 guns around with her. There's plenty of photos of her packing heat, so to speak. However, whilst her male round was very good, she was very good at the moving side of things, it wasn't all plain sailing because she got into a shit ton of bar fights in her time.
If you don't, incidentally, Sam, if you haven't written your own version of She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain When She Comes, I'll be very disappointed.
I haven't. I will endeavour to write one and edit it in right about
perfect.
now. She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes with the mail. She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes with her gun. She'll be coming round the mountain, blowing up the mountain, coming round the mountain when she comes. Da 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 da. Mary Stagecoach Fields.
God damn.
So yes, in true 80 action movie sporting montage style, she frequently got into bar fights with men from the town of Cascade, which being 2 inches taller than most of them and built like an absolute brick shithouse, she usually won. But most of the people of Cascade absolutely loved her. On her days off, she'd babysit for the kids of the town, and every year on her birthday, the schools would all close so the kids could go out and play with her, after she literally carried the coach and 6 horses on her back over the mountain. And she finally retired in 1903 at the age of 71, and as a reward for all of her hard work, she never had to buy a drink or a meal in Cascade again. Bearing in mind that she died in 1914 of liver failure, so she took full fucking advantage of that offer. She could drink. So yeah, she never had to pay for a drink or meal again, presumably because all the restaurateurs were fucking scared shitless of her. In fact, when a law was passed by the state of Montana which banned women from drinking in bars, she was specifically excluded from it by local ordinance. So not only were they scared, they were scared to make her pay for their drinks, they were certainly scared to ban her from the bars.
Yeah, exactly, to prevent her from drinking. Crikey.
Christ, do you think she's angry when she's drunk? Jeez. So yeah, she eventually died in 1914 at the age of 81, having lived as a slave in the South, a janitor, a nun of sorts, America's first black woman stagecoach driver in the frozen North, and actually she was only the 2nd female stagecoach driver overall. Absolute legend in the West, a bit of a badass, and a great mover. There you go, Tom.
I see what you did. There it is. There's the link, because she was moving things. Great. That is an interesting story. That is a good one, and I hadn't heard it before.
She's cool, isn't she?
Yeah, I think she's great. I'd give her a cuddle.
I would give her a cuddle too. And a scotch. Probably in that order. I think she'd probably take it as a threat if I tried to give her a cuddle after the scotch. See the red mist.
Have we had any audience... I'm just thinking, did we skip audience messages?
We did, but that's because the audience messages that we've had this week have all been suggestions for topics. So I thought we could move it to the end. And I've got
good thinking.
I've got a couple of options for you, Tom. Let me bring up Twitter.
What, you had some messages on Twitter as well? Because I don't really see those.
We have messages on Twitter, yes. We're that_was_genius on Twitter. So do get in touch with us there. Christian W suggested that we should do Daredevils.
Good idea.
Which is a great idea. And we had a couple of other people who I think they're on Podbean, I think they wrote to us, possibly Facebook, who suggested we do pandemics. We had a couple of different people doing pandemics, which I don't know. I feel like we should escape from that.
I do as well.
I feel like we should escape from that.
I think we should try and avoid that. Sorry, guys.
And Mango Man on Podbean also suggested that we do trash or waste as a topic.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Have we got sidekicks still in the back pocket as well?
Yeah, although I thought that might be a slightly tricky one to do. We could... Okay, let's throw it open. It's gentleman's choice. You choose. Do we do trash, Daredevils or sidekicks next week?
Daredevils.
Daredevils, good choice. I thought you'd probably go for that.
Daredevils it is.
Well, I'm sure we'll tackle the other ones at some point, so don't be too disappointed, but congratulations, Christian W. I think that's going to be very, very fun.
Good option. Yeah, good choice. Good suggestion.
Right, on that note, if you want to get in touch with us, you can. We're thatwasgeniuscast@gmail.com if you want to pop us an email with your comments or suggestions. We're also on Facebook, That Was Genius Podcast. We're on Instagram @That Was Genius, and we are on Twitter @that_was_genius. Right, I think it's probably bedtime, isn't it?
It's 9:15. What have you been doing all
It
day?
feels so much later than it is.
It's because you've been wanking all day.
Self-isolating. Just self-isolating. And on that note, I think it's time that we say goodbye for another week. We've keeping a safe social distance. Right, Tom, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.